Hello, everyone, and welcome to LearningSpace. This week, we are going to be talking about how to just get away from it all and escape our everyday worries to science. With me today is Dr. Phil Plait and his wonderful wife, Marcella. And as always, I have my co-host, Georgia Bracey, and I'm actually stepping in for Nicole Gugliucci, so pardon the transformation from purple to red this week. She will be back after she attends the American Astronomical Society next week. So without further ado, let me just put aside a couple more bits of Administrivia. If you want to ask questions, you can ask on our YouTube channel or via the Google Events homepage or via Twitter using the hashtag LearningSpace. And we're here to answer your questions about how to get away from it all. And to give us an overview, I'm switching it over to Phil and Marcella. Thank you.
Thanks, Pamela.
Thanks. Well, Science Getaways is actually Marcella's idea, so I'll let her take it from here.
Okay. Well, we were on vacation a few years ago in the Galapagos Islands, and it was amazing. It was just the most memorable trip ever, and part of that was because there was so much learning and discovery on a trip like that. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, hey, there aren't enough opportunities to do that kind of thing. So Phil and I decided to put together vacations for people who were real science enthusiasts. So we go to interesting places, and we bring along scientists to help the guests learn about what there is to discover at those places.
So where all have you gone so far in your adventures?
Well, we just started Science Getaways last year. So our inaugural vacation was at the Sea Lazy U Dude Ranch, which is right near where we live. It's in Granby, Colorado. And it was fantastic. We brought along a geologist and a biologist. So every day we took field trips, we wandered outside, and our geologist Holly showed us pieces of rock and explained what we were seeing and the history of the Rocky Mountains, and our biologist explained the ecosystems and how aspen trees really aren't each individual trees, but they're genetic clones of the parent tree, and about the animals that live in that region and the delicate ecology there. And it was fantastic. Everybody had a great time. And this year we are going to Bracey Ranch, which is a resort it's near Bend, Oregon. And that area is in the Cascades range, and so we're going to, while we're there, explore volcanoes.
Volcanoes!
That's the theme of this year's trip.
I'm very excited about this one. The idea is to go someplace which you'd want to go to on vacation anyway, that's nice and maybe comfortable, but near the wilderness, near places you can go and do fun things, and then basically add science to it. So last year, when we were in the Rocky Mountains, it was incredible. The Sea Lazy Ranch is nestled in a valley. You're surrounded by gorgeous Rocky Mountains. It gets very dark there. So at night we could have a star party, and it was really nice, actually. I had a telescope with me. And we're doing the same thing up here in Oregon. It's near the Three Sisters volcanoes. We'll be hiking on an obsidian field. How awesome is that? I can't wait to do that and destroy my boots. And again, it's a dark night kind of a place, so I'll have my telescope with me and be showing people the stars. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Excellent. How large a group do you guys get, or can you get? Because I looked on your site and I noticed you have closed registration, right, for this trip?
Yeah, it happened in about 10 days.
So how big a group, and what kind of people?
Well, it depends on the location. At the Sea Lazy U, I guess kind of because it was the first one and people didn't quite know what to expect, we had about 26 guests. This time we cut off registration at 68, and we had a waiting list 30 people long.
Wow.
So yeah, we don't want it to get so big that it becomes impersonal. So we decided to cut it off where we would have roughly 20 people in each of 3 hiking groups. Not really hiking, more like science walks groups. So we've got 3 scientists along. We've got an on-staff naturalist at Bracey. We've got Holly Brunkel again, our geologist from the Colorado School of Mines.
She's awesome.
And yeah, she is awesome. And Matt Schinderman is an ecologist at Oregon State Cascades, who's going to come and do our third kind of walkabout for the guests. And so we'll split up into 3 groups every day. And
but there's another scientist too.
Oh yeah, and this guy. I keep forgetting he's a scientist. I take it for granted.
Yeah.
He'll be handling the astronomy part at night.
The nighttime. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great. And it's family friendly? Is that
Very
right?
family friendly. Yeah, I decided to make this a trip that people could come and bring their kids and maybe have a little second getaway from their kids, because this resort has a kids' day activity camp. So for the younger kids, parents can drop them off there, know that they're having fun and are safe during the day, and go out and do the sciencey stuff with us. But we've got lots of people bringing kids 8, 9, 10 years old who are very excited about the science aspect, and will be, joining us for all that stuff too.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
There's
So
horseback ringing. We're going to do,
Did you see Pamela's eyes light up when you say that? Yeah. Horseback riding.
Great stables right on the resort. Phil and Holly are going to lead a mountain biking expedition one day while I'm off riding horses. And
then I'll spend the rest of the time in the hospital. But,
yeah, maybe.
That's what happens.
We've got a canoe trip planned up on a Cascade Lake up in the Three Sisters. It's going to be amazing. And then one day we're going to go volcano and cave exploring. The volcanoes in the region left these very large lava tubes underground that are just like huge cavernous cave systems. So we've got a local guide who's going to take us and walk us around the lava caves.
Oh, that's excellent. So nice to have local knowledge there too.
Exactly. And that's one thing we always look for, is to get experts who really are experts about the place we're going to. And Holly, even though she's at the Colorado School of Mines, she is from Oregon and knows the area really well. So she was super excited to be coming along again.
Well, last year we did, scientists give invited talks and that sort of thing, and we were doing this sort of thing, and there was a local historian who came with us. This was part of another organization's event, and she was telling us all about the history and even the ancient history of what we were visiting. And we realized at that point that when you go on a vacation, right, you want to know about where you're going. I mean, you can go to New Orleans and have a good time, but the more you know about the history, the more you know about what's going on there, the cooler it becomes. And you can say, oh, you know what happened here 150 years ago? Well, this. And that became one of our goals, is simply to go someplace and learn about that place. So when we're going to see these volcanoes, we will learn about those volcanoes, as well as some of the other Cascade volcanoes that are in that area. If we do this again in, I don't know, Hawaii or whatever, we'll learn about that place. And we have a series of overarching sort of ideas behind this, besides going someplace you want to go anyway and then adding science to it, learning about the local thing. If you've ever done a cruise, and a lot of people have, you're kind of forced to do what they want you to do. And if you don't want to do what they want you to do, you're in your cabin or you're going to the cafeteria. And we want to make sure that people can do what they want to do. If you want to go on this hike, or if you want to just hang out and read or whatever, fine. And I think that takes away a lot of the sort of the hectic pressure. We want this to be fun, and we want it to be an environment where you can soak up your surroundings and the science involved with it. That's the best way to do it, we think.
Yeah, that's awesome. So much more than just like having a tour guide on some, trip that you might go on.
Oh, absolutely.
It's more focused, I think, sounds like, on science, which is great, which you don't often get. You might get a little history, but I don't know. It seems like it's rare that you really get surrounded by science, like you say.
Absolutely. Yeah, and in fact, at the Sea Lazy U Ranch last fall, we on our last day, we just decided, let's go out and see what's along this creek bed. And
it was unplanned. Really.
It was a discovery walk. We're like, oh, let's go this way now. And one of the guests picked up a rock and looked at Holly and said, is this a fossil? And yes, it was. It was a fossilized plant leaf. So she was able to explain how it had probably washed downstream from 100 miles west and what geologic era it was from. And then another guest picked up.
It was from the Cretaceous, by the way. It's at least 65 million years old, and it was sitting there, and she picked it up and got to keep it.
Wow.
A piece of petrified wood just lying on the riverbank. So
yeah, it was pretty cool.
There's a lot of discovery to do if you just kind of relax and go about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
You know how relaxing science is, right, Pamela?
Yeah.
Just a breeze, right?
what I'm really loving is the concept of just take off and discovery will come when your mind achieves that I'm no longer freaking out that my email isn't getting done state.
Yeah.
Right.
It has a real appeal of just get away and recognize we live in a universe full of awesome things, and some of them are 65 million years old.
Yes. And at your feet if you
Right.
look down.
Yeah.
I think that certainly people watching this are going to be interested in science because because of you guys and because of I tweeted this, right? And so there's a selection effect where the people who already pay attention to us are interested in science. But I think that's true of most people. They just don't necessarily know it. They don't know that when they just go out and look up at the stars at night or look down at the rocks or whatever, that they're seeing science, but they're only scratching the surface of it. And we kind of wring that out of them in this country, at least. By the time they're adults, they don't understand how much they're soaking in all of this science. And so we're hoping that in a relaxed atmosphere where the food is good and your sort of basic needs are being taken care of, you can have that leisure time to relax and absorb all the amazing stuff. And certainly Sea Lazy U was spectacular. It was really nice there. And going to volcanoes, that's a dream of mine. So I'm really looking forward to being able to learn more about them.
I can imagine. Wow. All right. So tell about what kind of planning and involvement on your part does it take to put one of these trips together? I'm just curious because just the fact that you guys decided to just do it and start this company is amazing to me. And how much, so obviously you go somewhere where, there's some people there and there's some activities already maybe planned or at least available, but how much is what you guys do and put together and what does it take?
Well, typically the way it goes is I'll walk into Phil's office while he's busy writing his blog and go, hey, stop doing that for a minute and listen to me. And I say, how about this place or what about that place? And we'll hash it out, pros and cons. The way we settled on Oregon was, I don't even remember.
I don't remember.
But anyway,
volcanoes.
Volcanoes.
Where?
Phil loves volcanoes.
Well,
And he was posting lots of pictures of volcanoes from the space shuttle, I guess.
Yeah.
And so we kind of had volcanoes on our mind. And
We
Hawaii was a little too logistically tough to figure out this year, so we thought, well, they're all mostly dormant in the U.S., but dormant volcanoes can be fun too.
Right.
So
it's a matter, a little bit of it is logistics. We're trying to keep it in the continental United States for now. Once we figure out how this all works and we have a few of these under our belt, then maybe we'll try some more exotic locations. We were on an airplane recently just coming back from a meeting, and in the back of the magazine they always have a map of the US with all the airplane routes on it. So we were just looking at that. Hey, how about this place? Is there anything here? What can we figure out? And again, it's places we want to go. It's places we want to see. I figure if I want to see it, so do other people.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be astronomy. It doesn't have to be geology. It can be anything.
it does have to have dark skies.
Yeah, that helps.
That's kind of one of our prerequisites.
If I'm going, right, I want to bring my screen.
Right.
But so it was, once you decide on the place, you start looking around. Dude ranches or just ranches or resorts are typically really good for that sort of thing. You don't just want to be in a hotel because that doesn't give you a sort of a camaraderie, that feeling of everybody's in this together. You're all sort of in your separate place. So if you have it in if it's going to be a place like that, something like a resort where they have the restaurants and the meeting places and everything that are spread out, you can be outside. It's more of a homey feel to it, or at least a supportive one. After that, it's just a matter of finding a place that has reasonable price, that's near where we want to be, that has the sort of support we want, like naturalists and things like that, where we can grab them and go out and do what we want to do to bring the science to the people.
That all sounds great. We do have a question from the audience.
Yay.
Nancy Graz is asking, Marcella, we all know Phil's professional scientific background. What is yours? Were you interested in science before meeting Phil?
I'm more. I was interested in science before meeting Phil. I'm more of a squishy science person. So I always thought I would be either an environmental scientist or botanist because I love gardening and I love plants. I just think plants are amazing little microcosms unto themselves. And That didn't quite happen, but that's okay. So that's why we try to incorporate scientists from lots of different fields into our trips to have a little something for everybody. So, you know, if you love ecology, then we've got an ecologist for you. And maybe you don't know much about the stars, but by the time you leave, you'll probably be an astronomy enthusiast.
And she also has the organizational skills, which I very sadly lack. I'm expecting Pamela to be nodding her head sagely here. So, you know, all of the overhead, all of the sort of behind-the-scenes stuff is under her control, and she's done a fantastic job with that.
It's not too tough. I get to go to these great places and spend a few days visiting different resorts.
The incentive is really
just trying to choose among them. So.
Yeah, it's not too tough. She says, if I were in charge, there would be people on fire. There would be, you know, buildings collapsing. So this is, yeah, it's good that she's doing this.
Oh, beautiful. So you guys, you split your big group into 3 or maybe 2 groups according to what, walks you said, or?
Well, for this particular event coming up in Oregon,
for this one you did.
Okay. we just kind of worked it out because we had 3 scientists to lead, you know, our nature discovery walks. We made it so that each group would be a manageable size.
Okay.
So
now, do they stay?
And it all depends. It kind of depends on the location. So the next one we maybe can only have 30 people, or maybe we'll have 50. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just, do you, you know, sort of encourage them to get to know each other and do some sort of like community building, if you want to call it that, or just, you know, icebreaker kind of stuff, you know, to kind of make that sort of happen throughout the trip?
It kind of happens naturally. You know, at our first event, it was at a dude ranch, so everybody eats, you know, it's home style. You're sitting in the dining room, but there are long dining tables and there are big dishes that get passed around, and that kind of encourages people to get to know each other. So that worked out really well there. Because this group is a little bigger, I've got some ice-breaking activities planned, and I'm bringing along, pardon me, some irresistibly fun group games to help everybody get to know each other.
Always
like, who can resist playing apples to apples or Pictionary? So even though it's a bigger group, there's definitely, I think, a sense of community will develop. In fact, more than 50% of the people who attended our function last year at the Dude Ranch are coming back this year. So I think that speaks to how much they enjoyed it. And also we created for each of these trips a Facebook group that everybody going on the trip could join. It's a private group. And so people have been getting to know each other that way. And hey, who's going to be in this area on this day? Can I catch a ride with you? Who wants to carpool to the airport? So it all kind of through social media, people kind of, you know, get to know each other a little bit beforehand. And by the end, we've shared so much and learned so much together that everybody is friends. It's really
that's really cool. So you get to know them a little bit beforehand.
I do. I think I remember the name of everybody who was at the ranch last year.
What I absolutely
almost
love
70 this year. I don't know if that'll happen.
What I absolutely love about this is I know one of my bucket list things is to do one of the National Geographic science tours of the Galapagos or Lake Titicaca or Antarctica, because they have these amazing expeditions filled with scientists. But the thing with what you do is it isn't something that has to go on somebody's bucket list. It's actually like normal vacation price for the most part.
Yes.
And as you checked out your competition, which I'm sure you did as good business people, were you purposely aiming to hit a different demographic than these big name companies are hitting?
Yeah, I mean, of course I checked out the competition and I looked to see what other groups were doing, and I looked at their pricing. And our aim was to keep it, you know, a little smaller and more personal and affordable. You know, and I'm not going to say it's the most affordable vacation. It's not a Sandals resort package or, you know, a Carnival cruise. It's, you know, probably a little more than that, but when you consider the value added by the people we bring along and the activities that we offer, I think it's pretty reasonable for what you're getting. And yeah, we just try to keep costs down as much as possible to make it available to the most people possible.
And we have another question that I have to admit I selfishly like, and you'll see why. Michael Jobin asks, Marcelo, will you get others like to do like you're doing, but with other scientists to take a torch?
take to start doing this on their own?
So the way I'm reading this
Sure.
is will you help organize other science getaways led by other scientists to other places?
Oh, like a franchise.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. I'll sell licensing rights.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I am pretty darn busy trying to do this. Not completely by myself, but mostly.
I
Wow.
love the accusing look you gave Phil. I think all of us have given Phil that look at one point or
Repeating
another.
progress. That's my job.
No, he comes in handy because I don't know HTML, and so when I'm trying to make things work on the website, Phil, you're taking a 20-minute break from the blog. Get over here. I would encourage other people to do it, but I'm not going to, share my secrets or lay out a book of instructions.
No one
on how to
else
do
should
it.
do this. This is a terrible idea.
But you know what? There are plenty of vacationers and plenty of science around. So if you feel like doing it, go for it.
There are other groups doing it, like you mentioned, the Nat Geo cruises and some other things. And we got this idea because we were doing vacations with the Center for Inquiry and all these other people. So there's plenty of room, and it doesn't have to be astronomy or geology or whatever. If you want to do this, sure, go ahead. We wanted to do it because we had our own feelings about what it's like to go on vacation to add science to it. Somebody else might have a different idea about it. So yeah, sure, go ahead.
And I have to admit, Astronomy Cast is looking to start doing this probably once every other year. We did one embedded in a large group, and the problem with being embedded in a large group, embedded on a cruise ship, is you're totally at everybody else's whim. And so we're taking your model and probably doing something much smaller, but we're thinking along those lines as well.
Yeah, really, Phil and I had been on a few cruises, and we, quite frankly, got tired of being herded around on and off the ship. Okay, go see Athens in 90 minutes and be back, or we're leaving without you.
Yeah.
That's not really practical. So we would always find ourselves, we never, signed up for any of the cruise lines tours on land. We quickly discovered that we had a much better time if we went off and explored on our own.
Yeah.
So that's why we're doing this ourselves, because I'm maybe just a little bit of a control freak, and I like to be in charge, and I like to make sure things are getting done my way.
In fact, to add to that, on this last thing that we did, where we were in the Mediterranean, which was fantastic, it was really lovely, but they kept, and she's not kidding. I mean, it was like you get to go to Athens for 4 hours or something like that. It's not enough time to see anything. So we started, it was her idea, let's go off on our own, we'll get a driver, we'll just see what we can find. And it worked so well that we just abandoned basically the cruise excursions. By the last day, we had, 20 people following us saying, we want to do what you're doing. And so it just sort of naturally happened that Marcella was sort of, I'm going to take people around and do all this stuff. So it seemed like a great idea to just like, let's make this official and do it on our own.
So we have another question. Let me see. I just managed to. The new interface is still confusing me, so please forgive me. So we have Daniel Playford asking Phil, next to astronomy, what is your favorite field of science?
Well, all of them. Astronomy is my
Volcanoes.
Astronomy is my first and truest love. As far as science goes, but next it would be geology, and so I kind of lean a little bit on that for science getaways. That the first one was in the Rocky Mountains, and we learned about all the geology of that. This next one is volcanoes. I would love to see that. If you think about it, when you're going on vacation, you're typically going to places that are gorgeous, places you really want to see. If it's not a touristy place, if you're not going to Disney World, you're probably going to the Grand Canyon or something like that. So a lot of these places have natural geology, natural biology going on, and the ecology. So that'll probably always play a part in where we're going. But if I make a list of what I want to see, Hawaii, Iceland. My dream is the Galapagos. One of these days to be able to pull that together. That's everything all at the same time. Would be fantastic. But yeah, geology I think would be the answer to that question if I had to answer it simply.
Yeah, I think perhaps the easier way to ask is like, I know if you ask me what is the thing I'm least likely to do, it's to visit a cadaver site where they have the cadavers rotting in the fields. It's a dark sky facility. It's nicely isolated. I'm not going there. So if there is any scientific experiment or experience beyond the cadavers, because I've already taken that you would never experience, what's the thing that you don't want to do?
Well, that sounds like a pretty good contender, I would say. I'll go into one of those.
No body farms, no morgues. What would we not do? I wouldn't do anything in the field of sanitation science. I don't think.
When I was in 3rd grade, we did a tour of a sewage treatment plant. Yeah, I still remember that. So
I'm not very fond of heights, so anything that would involve being thousands of feet above the ground in a small vehicle that could plummet. In fact, when we were in the Mediterranean, we went to the Greek island of Ia, and people who've been there will know you can either walk up the mule trail that winds and winds and winds up, and takes a while, or you can take this, what do they call it?
It's a cable car.
I guess it's just a sky tram, and that was a bit harrowing for me. So
until the two Greek guys sat in the car with us.
They were a nice distraction. They were a nice distraction. But yeah, probably no parachuting, base jumping.
I'm guessing those rides across the top of the rainforest canopy where you're on the giant nutty things.
Oh, that would be tough. I might brave it just because that's too much to resist. But I would have to take some sort of sedative first.
You wanted to do the zip line it.
That's okay.
But we didn't have time,
I don't mind being high up if there's high speed involved. It's the slow.
You have to get it over with.
You have time to think about how horrible your death will be.
Yeah, you can calculate.
Cable breaks.
Let's see. Distance is 1/2 AT squared. It'll take me 14 seconds to hit the ground. I'll be moving at this velocity. Yeah.
Yeah, I took a ski lift through rainforest, and I was with Fraser's daughter, who's like all of 9, and all of a sudden she notices I'm white knuckling the railing. I have one arm behind her, white knuckling, and she's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I'm like, "Everything's fine. Everything's fine." Everything was not fine.
I didn't know which ended to the panicking adult next to you.
And even though a lot of the thrust of these is going to be astronomy, geology, ecology, biology, that sort of thing. If you sort of make a list of all the fields of science, not all of them, but a lot of them, there are a lot of other things you can do. I mean, there's the California wine region. There's a whole science-making wine, science-making beer. Those might be grown-ups only, but that's okay. You had mentioned you and Fraser might do something every other year. We're actually thinking about doing a couple of these a year. Sort of a small one and a big one. Big one might be family-oriented. A small one would be a smaller group of just adults, where people might be able to do grown-up things the whole time and not have to fret over the kids. And that could, I don't even know what that might be, but the sky's not the limit in this case. So
we know what it might be. We can tell. Well, we can tell a little bit.
We can tell a little bit.
A little bit. So next spring, the plan is that we're going to have a long weekend trip to New Orleans, which doesn't jump out at people as sciencey right away. But there are bayous and swamps and all sorts of cool ecology and interesting hydrology going on in that area. And we might throw in a little political science while we're there. I don't know. We'll see.
There's a rich history there, Andrew Jackson and all of that.
Yeah.
But also beignets. And
hurricanes.
And hurricanes.
So that will be an adults only trip.
Yeah.
Because New Orleans is not really so much a town to bring along your 7-year-old.
No. One never quite knows where things will go south. Plus, I think many crocodiles consider children appetizers.
Yes.
Which is good because alligators are appetizers too. If you ever had fried alligator, it's yummy.
True. So
cool.
As you're working on figuring out how to do all of this, what is your bucket list besides the Galapagos? I mean, it's Antarctica.
I'm not going.
No, that's
I'll
not her
arrange
thing.
it, but I'm not going.
That's my thing, not hers.
Don't like the cold so much.
That's a good question.
Which is funny considering I live in Boulder, but I think Antarctic cold is a whole other level of cold.
But that's a good question. Kilauea in Hawaii would be great. An active volcano that's pumping lava into the sea would be fantastic. And also, of course, there are, big telescopes there.
On my bucket list is an archipelago in the South Pacific. Doesn't really matter which one.
Just not the one that Amelia Earhart decided to land on.
Right. Or, a Bikini or any place where it might still be radioactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, it could be any place. Tahiti, any place there's
Fiji,
science, but
yeah.
at that point I suspect that you have to deliver a hell of a trip, because if somebody's going to spend 18 hours on a plane and, God knows how expensive that ticket is to fly there, there has to be a heck of a thing planned to support that. So that'll happen, I would guess. It'll just be a little while so we can get our act together for that.
Okay, so we have more questions coming in. So we have from Dan Peluso. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Would you ever consider doing space tourism together, e.g. Branson's Virgin Galactic? How about Dennis Tito's venture to send a married couple to Mars? Feel free not to answer, but it was too good not to pose.
No.
I would do the Virgin Galactic flight if I got to sit next to Leonardo DiCaprio, because I heard he's
Okay.
flying.
Oh, that's true.
Actually, you know what? They just auctioned off the seat next to him at Cannes, so that's
Oh, really?
that's out.
Right. I get sick on a kid's swing, so going up in a rocket is not going to be my thing. But arranging something like that, maybe I'll be happy to wave goodbye at the New Mexico spaceport as people take, Spaceship Two up on their ballistic flight. That might be a little pricey at $200,000 a ticket.
But in 20 years,
Yeah.
the price will be way down to only $10,000.
Yeah, right. That's I'm more than happy to meet people who can afford something like that. But yeah, that might be in the far distant future.
And the thing to Mars, no way. I get bored too easily. I can't be in a small space for that long.
Whereas, I live in this office and I don't ever actually need to go outside. So going to Mars would be easy if I had an internet connection and enough fleece pajamas and thermal socks to keep me happy throughout that trip.
Yeah, I'm kind of along with Phil on that one, but I suspect your child might object. There is
Sorry,
a question.
live TV here. Oh, we turned that off. Oh well.
So we have a question from Nancy Graz. Any chance you will host a getaway in the Northeast? I guess it's more like any plans versus any chance.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. There's a chance of any place. We have looked at the Northeast. There are issues with that, mostly dealing with weather. We are both actually from the East Coast, from the DC area, so we know that winters there are extremely cold and summers can be unpleasant. And spring and fall can be unreliable if you try to do stuff outside. It could rain at a moment's notice or anything like that. That has been kind of holding us back a little bit. Plus trying to find some overarching theme for a week or a weekend in the Northeast. If people have suggestions, absolutely. Science Getaways is on Google+, or you can find us easily. We have a website, sciencegetaways.com. Send us suggestions. We'll be happy to keep a list and take a look if you've got a good idea.
Yeah, I have to do all this kind of blind. I just get on the internet and search for resorts that have the features we need. And if, it's possible I'm missing something. So if anybody knows of some really fantastic places.
I was in New Hampshire when it was syrup making time, and I went to a breakfast place that made their own maple syrup, and I had that on French toast. And I can still taste it. That was like 6 years ago, and it was like fantastic. So actually, a maple syrup factory touring syrup making adventure would be that would have some leverage with me.
And I think the ocean might have a little bit to offer. I'm thinking of some place like Bar Harbor or something where you can just throw a net out to a tidal pool and do a counting of what sorts of critters are still actively available there.
Yeah, we talked about that too. I've been to Acadia National Park in Maine a couple of times, and the problem there is insects. When it's finally warm enough there to really enjoy it, it's like 8 bazillion armor-plated biting bugs come in. So it's just a matter of timing and planning and all of that.
And altitude helps with the bugs. If you go high enough, they're
Right.
slightly deterred.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
So
good
so
to
you know,
know.
Big Bear. Of course, that's the other end of the country. But
Yeah.
what is that? Mount Cadillac? Is that in Maine or
Mount
Mount Washington in New
Washington.
Hampshire?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. There's a
So
lot
so
of
there's
New England will happen at some point. I've done some research into that, and it's just a matter of.
And our daughter is a history dork and she's huge into American history, so the Northeast would probably
Oh,
thrill her.
excellent. Yeah.
We got a chance to go there.
Yeah.
So we have a comment. Pat O'Brien's Hurricanes, I'm in, and another one, why not the science of beer break? And those are both things that you alluded to. And then we have, this is one that I think the answer will be yes. Jim Meeker asks, we're all thinking Pamela should lead a group to Southern Illinois for the solar eclipse in 2017.
Does the path get near you?
It's 30 miles south of where I live.
Right?
So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So
There you
Wait, how
I
is that possible? Because it's only 200 miles north of where we live.
that whole cutting the diagonal across the country over time, the stupid rotation of the planet, long stripy line. Yeah, it cuts north of you, south of me. This is actually the rock and roll or music or grunge or blues cruise, depending on if you go listen to it. If you go watch the solar eclipse in Seattle, in St. Louis and Nashville, it's going near all these big, amazing cities for
that's
music.
That's cool. All
We
right.
may do something
4
for that.
years.
It's it really isn't that far from here. It's north of us in Wyoming. I'm not sure. I wonder. I'd have to look at the path and how it cuts across. But I know it's not even a day's drive from here for us. So it would be pretty easy to throw the telescope in the back and do something for that as well. And if it's in Wyoming, I remember looking at it a few months ago. Lots of geology, lots of dinosaur stuff in that area too. So it would be we could do that.
Speaking of beer, because Pamela, somebody mentioned beer in their question. The next event we've got going, actually, it's a little different from a group of vacationers going off together and spending a week together, but we are putting on the first that I know of public science festival in Boulder, Colorado. There, people think Boulder and they think maybe
Mork and Mindy,
marijuana, hippies, marijuana.
Yeah.
At least one of those
There's
is
a lot of
probably
beer
true.
here, and it's going to happen in Boulder over the same weekend as Great American Beer Fest is in Denver. So if you're coming to Denver anyway, you could pop up for a day. We're going to have some beer events as well. We're going to have a craft brewer from a local small brewery talk about the science of making beer.
And it's going to be a long weekend with lots of we'll have science talks as well as some outdoor stuff. We won't go into too many details. I will say we'll have some world-class people coming to speak. People are going to want to do this, I think, and a lot of the local stuff again that we might be able to take people out into the hills here and check out the Rocky Mountains and do that sort of thing. This incredible area. And you may not think science when you think of Boulder. In fact, there are 3 major astronomical research institutes I can bike to from my house, and that's not including Ball Aerospace, which is building the James Webb Space Telescope, basically everything on it, and everything that's on Hubble right now is essentially built at Ball. They're building the B612 Foundation Sentinel telescope to look for at near-Earth asteroids. This is a major, major, major facility, so there's a ton of science going on here, and that's just astronomy. We're not even talking about the geology that's here, the biology that's here, the aeronautical engineering that's going on here.
Paleontology.
And paleontology.
Yes.
Yes, we will have, in fact, a paleontologist speaking.
Right.
And alternative energy researchers.
And climate.
And
NCAR's here, the National Center for Atmospheric Research.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of opportunities here to get a lot of science together, and we want people to know that Boulder is sort of one of the central places for science being done in this country. It's a small town too, so it's pretty amazing.
And for those of you who are confused about how some folks are asking questions, if you go to, we apologize for the new Google Plus interface. If you go directly to the YouTube page, so start the video on whatever page you're viewing us on, there's a YouTube link in the lower right-hand corner. Click to YouTube. Any comments you leave on YouTube will appear on my screen within the Hangout and allow me to post them in here. You can also use the hashtag LearningSpace with no space in it, anywhere on Twitter or Google Plus, and that will get pushed in here as well. So either hashtag LearningSpace or go to the YouTube page. And this is an absolutely fantastic conversation that we're having about science getaways. And I know, Georgia, you actually worked for a period of time at some place where you got to be a nature interpreter, and you must just have lots of ideas listening about this. And I'd love to hear what's in your head.
Oh, well, I did, but and we did lots of sort of like, I don't know, mini versions of this. So just, nature walks, and we were always trying to come up with, some other interesting way to get both kids and adults involved and give them, choices of things to do, because that's really important. You said how you don't want to feel like you're being shuttled here and there and not have a choice, and it's great to have a choice like that. So, and we were developing nighttime things, which was really cool. So it was an arboretum. So of course you come during the day to look at the trees and hike the trails, but they were just beginning to do some really great nighttime activities. And some of those were like full moon hikes was a big thing, which is really cool. And, because sometimes, amateur astronomers, we don't like the full moon so much, but actually it worked really well for getting people to come out because everybody, love the moon. It's like our friend. So, we were starting to get into some of those more creative things to do outside and to have speakers come in and talk about things a little more science-oriented than just, fun stuff. So getting in a little more into science, which was really great. But I had another question for you guys, too. You had a Facebook page, right, for your people, right, that come. And you probably get some feedback from them, I suppose, on that. And I was wondering if you look for feedback from your people in other ways. Like, do you send out surveys or, after trips, or do people just, email you and say, hey, this was great, but I didn't like this so much, or, and then do you use that? I'm sure you do, but maybe you could tell us some interesting things you've gleaned from your participants.
We did a short survey. I like to keep it to 10 questions or fewer. Well, one, because it gets you a free Survey Monkey account, and two, because people don't like long surveys. But we did a short survey after our last event, and I got to say that it was almost embarrassing.
Stop being too awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really all right.
Yeah.
That's a terrible problem to have.
But I mean, there were some suggestions about timing and the different activities and all of that, and stuff that's really easy. It's just adjustment. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
And I made note of all those, and I'm addressing them in our Oregon trip. So, and actually, one of the people who made a suggestion is coming along to Oregon, so I have to make sure I don't forget that one.
Gotta do that one.
But absolutely, you have to get feedback from the people that you're, presenting a product to. So that's how we do it.
Logistically, it's interesting because you're going to a place that already exists, and you are the middleman, basically. Mm-hmm. So if one of our guests has a problem, they go to Marcella, and then Marcella has to go to the people in charge, and you have to work all that out. And she's fantastic at making sure that's all good. It's interesting to see. It's interesting from my point of view because I'm watching all this happen to see how things get fixed, to see how the people are reacting, and planning this logistically is interesting. You mentioned the full moon hike. Well, we don't want to do a full moon hike because we want to be able to take a telescope out and see stars. So when do you plan these? Well, you plan these around new moon, but maybe you want it to end 4 or 5 days after new moon so that you can see the moon. So the first one was scheduled that way, that we had dark skies, but the last night you could see the crescent moon. Got a little cloudy where we were, so it didn't work out perfectly that way. But it should be. You go by the almanac and look at when the good weather is, when the moon's in the right phase, and all of that sort of thing. It's not just when do we have time to do this.
Yeah, you can't just pick a date. When I'm looking at dates, the first thing I do is I come in and say, okay, get out your sky map, your calendar, and let's see where we're going to be.
We see,
and if it's going to work. And I've spent quite a bit of time trying to work around the phases of the moon, actually.
The stars literally have to align for this to work.
Yes, I know. They can be annoying. It's very true. But it all depends. I'm sure the people that you take are excited to probably see just about anything in the sky. I don't know. Or maybe they are more experienced. Do you get people that, I never realized that was up in the sky, or I could see that, or the stars were so bright, or that's the Milky Way. Oh my God, that.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's
The
kind of
Milky
fun to
Way
watch.
was amazing.
Yeah.
People come with their significant others, and one person, I imagine, this is the way it goes: is, oh, we need to go on this great vacation because there will be lots of astronomy, and I love astronomy. And the person's like, it's not my thing. But then there's something for them too. So you'll watch the person who's way into astronomy but has never ridden a horse suddenly discover that they like riding horses. Or you'll watch the person who loves riding horses but has never looked through a telescope want to go out every night and look through the telescope. So for couples, I think it can be kind of fun too, because you can kind of cross over into each other's area of interest and find some common interests there.
We did see that quite a few. We had one person who was like totally, oh, I'm not into this stuff, but by the end it was, yeah, she was pretty enthusiastic. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so they find things they didn't know,
Exactly.
were so awesome about the other person's, hobby.
And I can't tell you how long we spent on our first nature hike with our ecologist talking about DNA cloning of aspen trees.
Yeah, it's really cool, actually.
Everybody was just, I was like, okay, it's been 20 minutes. But everybody wanted to talk about the aspen trees. Of course, it was fall. They were golden. It was beautiful. And that helps a lot. But, so that's somebody who really likes genetics and never realized that aspen trees grow in cloned clusters. Suddenly found that they liked trees. Oh, trees are cool now because they're clones. So it's fun.
We're not rigidly, making sure everything happens a certain way at a certain time and everything.
No.
So there's time for that sort of stuff to evolve.
Yeah.
What I'm really loving is, as we've been doing this hangout, the YouTube stream comments have been just absolutely filling with ideas of places you should go, things you should do. So I'd strongly encourage you to go look and see what Lone Three Wolf and Dan Peluso and Michael Jobin and all these other great folks are saying out there. Now, Nicole Gugliucci, the normal host of the show, she actually points out.
Never heard of her. Is that a friend or something?
Yeah, Nicole. Who is this? Oh, wait,
Garvin?
I think.
Garvin Flavin? Fnargan Hargan? What's her last name?
I think she crashed her
Gugliucci.
flight was canceled.
So Nicole points out that the 2017 and 2024 eclipses cross in the same spot in Illinois. So there is a reason to come to Illinois, so you can say that you experienced an eclipse from the exact same place twice on two different stars.
Or you do 2017 with us and 2024 with you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too.
I assume that's Ed Murphy at the University of Virginia. He was a grad school classmate of mine, and Nicole knows him because she was at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory at UVA.
We spent many a Saturday evening with.
He was my roommate for a year.
Edna's wife. Yes.
Yeah, that's funny.
And I should mention, and maybe you can say more about this, Pamela, because you know more about what Nicole's going to do than I do. Nicole is going to be at the Boulder Science Festival, because not only are we having world-class scientists give public talks on their field, but we're going to have what I'm calling a science carnival on the grounds of the hotel in Boulder. And the hotel is in a beautiful site. It sits right at the base of the Flatiron Mountains. It's right along Boulder Creek. They have big, beautiful grounds. So we're going to have booths set up just like at a carnival, but they're going to be science booths. So one of the people at a science booth is going to be Nicole. And what's she going to do, Pamela?
She's going to have a booth dedicated to citizen science and trying to understand the wonderful science behind cratering, which allows you to do everything from try and understand the ages of different regions on rocky surfaces to, craters provide kind of nature's highway cutout that lets you see the stratigraphy of alien worlds. So it's going to be, how do we know that some of the asteroids on Earth or meteorites on Earth came from the asteroid Vesta? What science are we doing with asteroids? I'm sure she's going to be demonstrating crater making, and I'm sure there'll be some comets involved just because it's fun to play with dry ice. Just never eat dry ice.
I hope so. I saw her do the comet demo where it's dry ice and charcoal and other bits and pieces, and you make a comet. And I saw her do that at DragonCon last year in Atlanta, and she was fantastic. The crowd loved her, as well they should, and so it's going to be great to have her here and doing that.
And then for the kids who don't quite understand how seeing a crater on another heavenly body can show you its geography, I think we're going to do the edible asteroids. Are they edible asteroids or comets? So they can make their own. No, you don't know about this, Pamela?
It's charcoal and dry ice, but
Oh no, I thought there was one with like cookies and ice cream or
So
something.
you can do edible comets.
Wonderful.
I usually do edible, and Noisy normally does quite deadly.
Oh, okay.
But we can probably arrange for both to be there for you.
Okay. Well,
I am a fan of eating comets personally.
yes. There will definitely be hands-on comet stuff in any case. So.
Awesome. Wow.
So as we're winding up on time, I'd like to thank everyone for coming to this hangout and dealing with any technological foibles, or however you say that word, foibles that you may have. I tried to combine foobar and foibles into one word, and it didn't.
That would be a good word.
Furboils.
I'm not furballs. That's all I thought, because I think my cats, yeah.
Right. So we appreciate everyone dealing with all of the technical quandaries that may have occurred as we all learn the new technology associated with the new version of Google+. There will be another hangout tomorrow hosted by Emily Lakdawala of the Planetary Society, and then Friday, as always, will be our weekly space hangout. Sunday night is the virtual star party, and Astronomy Cast comes back after a 1-week hiatus tomorrow. Not tomorrow, on Monday, and we are still working and sorting out topics and everything. But you can find everything on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/astropherevids. So go do science at cosmoquest.org. Go get away and do more science in the field with the Science Getaways. What is your URL?
Yeah, what's your website?
It's sciencegetaways.com. And right now the homepage is still talking about Oregon with a big red message that says it's full. But as soon as we're ready to open up registration for the Boulder Science Festival, which should be in the next couple weeks, that will be on the front page of sciencegetaways.com. And that's getaways with an S on the end. So we'll always keep that pointing to the most recent thing that you can participate in. And if you want to email with suggestions, you can just email info@sciencegetaways.com.
Okay.
And so thank you. This has been absolutely fabulous. And do you have anything you want to add, Georgia, before we close out?
No, except that I'd love to go on the next trip. If I'd like to go to the volcano one, that sounds awesome.
I'm thinking Iceland, where they have Icelandic horses to go along the volcanoes.
Really?
I could totally get behind that. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I was thinking the hot springs. Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you announce a company like this. All your scientist friends say, do you need another astronomer?
We have lots of volunteer help.
Hey, I would pay to
astronomer.
go to Iceland with you guys.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well,
thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah,
This was a pleasure.
So that is it for this edition of the Learning Space from cosmoquest.org.
9, 10 years old who are very excited about the science aspect and will be, joining us for all that stuff too.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
There's horseback riding. We're going to do,
See Pamela's eyes light up when you say that? Yeah. Horseback riding.
Great stables right on the resort. Phil and Holly are going to lead a mountain biking expedition one day while I'm off riding horses. And
then I'll spend the rest of the time in the hospital. But,
maybe.
That's what happens.
We've got a canoe trip planned up on a Cascade Lake up in the Three Sisters. It's going to be amazing. And then one day we're going to go volcano and cave exploring. The volcanoes in the region left these very large lava tubes underground that are just like huge cavernous cave systems. So we've got a local guide who's going to take us and walk us around the lava caves.
Oh, that's excellent. So nice to have local knowledge there too.
Exactly. And that's one thing we always look for, is to get experts who really are experts about the place we're going to. And Holly, even though she's at the Colorado School of Mines, she is from Oregon and knows the area really well. So she was super excited to be coming along again.
Well, last year we did, scientists give invited talks and that sort of thing, and we were doing this sort of thing, and there was a local historian who came with us. This was part of another organization's event, and she was telling us all about the history and even the ancient history of what we were visiting, and we realized at that point that when you go on a vacation, right, you want to know about where you're going. I mean, you can go to New Orleans and have a good time, but the more you know about the history, the more you know about what's going on there, the cooler it becomes. And you can say, oh, you know what happened here 150 years ago? Well, this. And that became...
Hello, everyone, and welcome to LearningSpace. This week, we are going to be talking about how to just get away from it all and escape our everyday worries to science. With me today is Dr. Phil Plait and his wonderful wife, Marcella. And as always, I have my co-host, Georgia Bracey, and I'm actually stepping in for Nicole Gugliucci, so pardon the transformation from purple to red this week. She will be back after she attends the American Astronomical Society next week. So without further ado, let me just put aside a couple more bits of Administrivia. If you want to ask questions, you can ask on our YouTube channel or via the Google Events homepage or via Twitter using the hashtag LearningSpace. And we're here to answer your questions about how to get away from it all. And to give us an overview, I'm switching it over to Phil and Marcella. Thank you.
Thanks, Pamela.
Thanks. Well, Science Getaways is actually Marcella's idea, so I'll let her take it from here.
Okay. Well, we were on vacation a few years ago in the Galapagos Islands, and it was amazing. It was just the most memorable trip ever, and part of that was because there was so much learning and discovery on a trip like that. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, hey, there aren't enough opportunities to do that kind of thing. So Phil and I decided to put together vacations for people who are real science enthusiasts. So we go to interesting places, and we bring along scientists to help the guests learn about what there is to discover at those places.
So where all have you gone so far in your adventures?
Well, we just started Science Getaways last year. So our inaugural vacation was at the...
Can you get? Because I looked on your site and I noticed you have closed registration, right, for this trip?
Yeah, it happened in about 10 days.
So how big a group and what kind of people?
Well, you know, it depends on the location. At the Sea Lazy U, I guess kind of because it was the first one and people didn't quite know what to expect, we had about 26 guests. This time we cut off registration at 68 and we had a waiting list 30 people long.
Wow.
So yeah, we don't want it to get so big that it becomes impersonal. So we decided to cut it off where we would have roughly 20 people in each of 3 hiking groups. Not really hiking, more like science walks groups. So we've got 3 scientists along. We've got an on-staff naturalist at Bracey. We've got Holly Brunkel again, our geologist from the Colorado School of Mines.
She's awesome.
And yeah, she is awesome. And Matt Schinderman is an ecologist at Oregon State Cascades who's going to come and do our 3rd kind of walkabout for the guests. And so we'll split up into 3 groups every day. And
but there's another scientist too.
Oh yeah, and this guy. I keep forgetting he's a scientist. I take it for granted.
Yeah.
He'll be handling the astronomy part at night.
The nighttime. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great. And it's family friendly? Is that
Very
right?
family friendly. Yeah. I decided to make this a trip that people could come and bring their kids and maybe have a little second getaway from their kids, because this resort has a kids' day activity camp. So for the younger kids, parents can drop them off there, know that they're having fun and are safe during the day, and go out and do you know, the sciencey stuff with us. But we've got lots of people bringing kids. 8, 9 Sea Lazy U Dude Ranch, which is right near where we live. It's in Granby, Colorado, and it was fantastic. We brought along a geologist and a biologist. So every day we took field trips. We wandered outside, and our geologist Holly showed us, you know, pieces of rock and explained what we were seeing and the history of the Rocky Mountains, and our biologist explained the ecosystems and how aspen trees really aren't each individual trees, but they're genetic clones of the parent tree, and about the animals that live in that region and the delicate ecology there. And it was fantastic. Everybody had a great time. And this year we are going to Bracey Ranch, which is a resort it's near Bend, Oregon. And that area is in the Cascades range, and so we're going to, while we're there, explore volcanoes. And
Volcanoes.
That's the theme of this year's trip.
I'm very excited about this one.
Fabulous.
The idea is to go someplace which you'd want to go to on vacation anyway. That's nice and maybe comfortable, but near the wilderness, near places you can go and do fun things, and then basically add science to it. So last year when we were in the Rocky Mountains, it was incredible. The Sea Lazy Ranch is nestled in a valley. You're surrounded by gorgeous Rocky Mountains. It gets very dark there, so at night we could have a star party, and it was really nice. Actually, I had a telescope with me, and we're doing the same thing up here in Oregon. It's near the Three Sisters volcanoes. We'll be hiking on an obsidian field. How awesome is that? I can't wait to do that and destroy my boots. And again, it's a dark night kind of a place, so I'll have my telescope with me and be showing people the stars. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Excellent. How large a group do you guys?
One of our goals is simply to go someplace and learn about that place. So when we're going to see these volcanoes, we will learn about those volcanoes, as well as some of the other Cascade volcanoes that are in that area. If we do this again in, I don't know, Hawaii or whatever, we'll learn about that place. And we have a series of overarching sort of ideas behind this, besides going someplace you want to go anyway and then adding science to it, learning about the local thing. If you've ever done a cruise, and a lot of people have, you're kind of forced to do what they want you to do. And if you don't want to do what they want you to do, you're in your cabin or you're going to the cafeteria. And we want to make sure that people can do what they want to do. If you want to go on this hike, or if you want to just hang out and read or whatever, fine. And I think that takes away a lot of the sort of the hectic pressure. We want this to be fun, and we want it to be an environment where you can soak up your surroundings and the science involved with it. That's the best way to do it, we think.
Yeah, that's awesome. So much more than just like having a tour guide on some, trip that you might go on.
Oh, absolutely.
It's more focused, I think, sounds like, on science, which is great, which you don't often get. You might get a little history, but I don't know. It seems like it's rare that you really get surrounded by science, like you say.
Absolutely. Yeah, and in fact, at the Sea Lazy U Ranch last fall, we on our last day, we just decided, let's go out and see what's along this creek bed. And
it was unplanned.
It
really,
was, yeah. It was a discovery walk. We're like, oh, let's go this way now. And one of the guests picked up a rock and looked at Holly and said, "Is this a fossil?" And yes, it was. It was a fossilized plant leaf. So she was able to explain how it had probably washed downstream from 100